Thank you so much to everybody for joining, and particularly our panel that we have. It's an absolute record that we've had of registrations and participation. And we were talking a little bit earlier with the panel. The subject matter, agent abuse, I think is already showing up as a high interest topic. And we look forward to sharing views and to hearing the views of those who are participating with us this morning. My introduction, my name is Rod Jones. I'm brand ambassador for Corby Speech Analytics and been in the industry for 55 years. How's that? Beat that one. Um, so it's a great pleasure to host today's session. And once again, thanks to Corby for sponsoring. Round the room, ladies first. Shane, why don't you just give us a little bit about your background and what you're doing now in the industry?
Sure. So thanks for having me, everyone. I'm quite excited about today's discussion. Hi to Rudy, Rod, and Cheryl. So Shane Nicholas, or Shane Jenks otherwise, currently the CEO of Digital Customer Experience, otherwise known as DCX. I've spent the last 18 years in the financial sector, 8 or 9 years of which has been running contact centers in various different um, ways, shapes, and forms, predominantly in the financial sector, which is highly regulated and high complexity. I've, however, overseen most aspects of an organization. So I'm hoping to bring today a lens to the table that shows how all elements within a company affects the ultimate customer journey, which is topical to the discussion at hand. I am an advocate for good business processes, optimization, sound strategy, and just laying foundations for people to thrive in an organization, which ultimately, in my belief, means that the organization itself thrives. So, really looking forward to this discussion today. I think it's quite topical. I think it's global. I think it's a problem that exists in all contact centers, not just in South Africa. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Thanks for that, Shane. That's great. Cheryl, sitting down in Cape Town.
Yes, thank you, Rod. Thanks for having me, first of all. Such a topic that's close to my heart, and one that I think that deserves the spotlight that you have placed on. So thank you for that. I'm Cheryl Parvata. I'm the owner and managing director of Core Lab. We are a BPO based in Cape Town, a boutique BPO. We are tiny in comparison with my guests that we have here. But just because we're tiny doesn't mean that we don't see this as a big problem as well. And I did a quick poll, Rod, last week with my team, just to do a little bit of a pulse check in terms of how many of them experience, I coined it severe customer abuse, just like in general, every now and then, or no, I've never experienced it. And the severity was surprising to me. We had about 40% of our team say that they feel that what they do experience is quite severe. But obviously that would be based on your perception. And then we did have a small percentage that said that they were coasting and everything was okay. But it was guys dealing with it. It seems like the business to business type of scenario versus the consumer type of interactions. So yeah, we are passionate about what we do here at our business. We to Shane's point, we understand deeply that the employee experience ultimately results in what the customer experience is. And looking after our employees is paramount to the business. And this type of conversation, I'm hoping will also help me to navigate this minefield of how do we find the balance in terms of how do we deal with these type of very emotionally loaded and charged conversations that our guys have to face on a day-to-day basis. So very important, and thank you for this opportunity.
Now, I think it's something we can all just complain about it. We can voice our opinions about it, but I think we're looking for solutions and sharing ideas and possible solutions. And that's why, once again, to all the delegates who've registered, I see we're up to 73 so far who are participating. If you really do have a contribution, we'd love to hear from you. And so, talking about love to hear from you, Rudy, also sitting down in Cape Town. Rudy, we've known each other for what?
Many years.
Many years. So Over to you.
Thank
Bit of
you.
background and what you guys are up to now with Trilogy.
Thanks, Rod and Shane and Cheryl. Always great to have conversations with people I respect in the industry. Some of us have worked alongside each other for many years. I'm the Chief People Officer for Trilogy BPO. Cheryl, also a new boutique BPO. So my experience spans across enterprise, really large BPOs, and also the smaller bespoke BPOs. So I look after recruitment, training, HR, and in my opinion, more importantly, employee well-being. So I look after that entire employee life cycle while they're with us. And this is such a pertinent topic for us to discuss. I did mention to Rod earlier that I think we are all so exhausted by AI conversations and tech conversations and tech solutions that I wasn't surprised when Rod said this is one of the biggest turnouts we've had because we're dealing with people issues. And I think this topic today is something that AI and technology is not going to solve for us. So we really have to put our minds together in how we address and face into real life challenges on our operational floors. So I think we all would agree in our BPO industry, we manufacture nothing. Make anything, we don't build anything. We have people as our foundation. And technology is not always the answer. We've got to go back to grassroots of how we upskill, how we train, how we enable and empower people with the right tools to lean into this really difficult conversation. So I'm really excited for today. I think it comes at the right time. So being in a large corporate versus bespoke boutique BPO, we face the same problems. It's the same challenge. It's not different whether you are 100 people or 2,000 people. So thank you for the opportunity.
Excellent. Now, to get the show rolling and to put it all into perspective, Cheryl very kindly shared with us a fairly long, it was 16, 17 minutes recording of, in my opinion, one of the most abusive calls I've heard. Shane will come in just now. She said she's heard worse. We have done some edits on it. I've split it into 3 parts. Really just the intro where the call is first handled, then the middle part where the customer's starting to lose it, and the last part, which took me several hours with all the beeps I had to put into the recording. It was horrendous. So what I'd like to do is to play, Cheryl, if you could just give a bit of background to the where this call came from, and then I'll play the first part.
Okay. So it's one of our longest standing clients. We've been servicing them for close on to 7 years. When we started, we essentially started with their business. We were essentially a captive for the longest time before we started doing international work. So it's a domestic client that does bill processing. And this is a citizen of a municipality in South Africa. We didn't beep that out, so you will hear where he's based. And he paid his municipal bill via my client's platform. The client did transfer the money over to the municipality. The municipality didn't allocate the funds to his account. He contacted us because of the allocation that wasn't done and the consequences of that, which I'm still not clear on what actually transpired, whether it was as severe as he said, because he contradicts himself in the conversation where he says that his electricity has been cut off, and then he said the municipality is there to cut it off. But be that as it may, he was very upset, rightly so. And our dear agent, Misa, she did her best to try and calm him down, but the call was extremely, it went very personal very quickly, I would say.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That said, technology hopefully coming to work with us as opposed to against us. Here's the first call.
Well, help desk. Please note that calls may be recorded for quality assurance and training purposes. For vending support, please press 2.
Thank you for calling to your speaker to Miss. How can I assist you?
Hi, good evening, ma'am. I'll help you, please. I used your services last month to pay my Ekurhuleni bills, right? On the 7th of June, right? The municipality has served me now a notice that the money hasn't been paid, all right?
Mm-hmm.
For all my accounts. So there were 5 accounts that are paid. So what's going on? Are we not stealing the money or what is it?
Did you pay it on sir?
Yes, I did.
All right, please hold on for me. Did you get a statement, sir?
Yes, I did. On the 7th of the month as well, that has been paid, but nothing's reflected on my accounts.
On your statement, all right.
Yes.
Can you give me your ID number so that I escalate this to our developer so that they investigate this further?
ID number.
Yes, sir, the ID number that you registered so that I'll have to escalate this to our
Here's the receipt number. It's 2662.
2662.
369 is my receipt number.
69.
Yes.
Okay, and your ID number?
My ID number, I don't have an ID number. What ID number are you talking about?
The ID number, you're saying that you made payment for
Yeah.
your...
Yeah.
And I need your ID number as well, sir. So you have an ID number that you registered with when you were registering.
What ID number are you talking about?
Your personal ID number, sir. So that's an
What
ID number. Were you paying with your own?
Yeah, but I mean, I want to know where's my money, right? I want to know where's my money and I want to know now, right? The municipality is here to cut off my life, okay? I don't want to go through your developers and all of it. I need to know now. What have you guys done with my money, right? Because I'll get them to actually sue you guys, right?
Okay.
You can't be sitting with my money from the 7th of June and not paid, but here's the ID number. Hold on. Yeah, I need to know now. Don't tell me you're going to send it to somebody else. I need to know now. Where's my money?
Okay, so that's the intro. Cheryl, would you comment on that just very briefly before we play the second part?
I mean, in terms of her, the limitations that she had at that point in time, in terms of what she could do, the request of I want my money now, any rational person would understand that you are contacting a help desk and that there's a process. But I think that when emotions get to that point, all rationality goes out by the window. And it's the de-escalation process at that point that is extremely important. I don't know, Rudy, Shane, your take on that?
Yeah. Shane, go with it. Any
Yeah.
observations at this point?
So I think just, being a South African and having experienced no power, I think, when a client gets to this point and if they are standing in front of him and planning to cut off his electricity, we know, all South Africans will say, what it feels like to have or to be faced with that, and knowing, that it can take a week to be reconnected, et cetera, et cetera. So understanding, clients, I just think they don't wake up in the morning and have their coffee and think, today I'm going to phone an agent and really give them gears. I think, by this point, he's really feeling it and he's certainly under threat. And that's why you're feeling that heightened emotion. I think that there could have been a couple of things done to diffuse and just bring the client down a couple of notches from the very beginning. But again, to your point, Cheryl, did the agent have the tools to resolve the client's issue right then and there? And if not, how could it have been escalated potentially to someone else to maybe, elevate it to a point where there is access, where someone could have given them more information? But I don't know the context of what else happened on this call. But yeah, from the client's point of view, certainly a little bit of empathy and understanding how he got there. From the agent's point of view, shame. This poor girl, it sounds like she's really trying. But I'm interested to hear the rest.
Yeah. Wait till you hear the rest. Rudy, just a quick comment from you. Anything you'd like to add?
I think it is so, we often are with our hands tied behind our back because of dictated process by our clients, right? So it's almost going into a gunfight with a knife because process dictates, to Cheryl's point, what the advisor had access to give certain answers, that the customer wanted, probably didn't have, wasn't equipped or empowered to have specific information. So I think it opens up a much larger conversation around how we work with our customers and where are the lines that we get to draw and how we support. And I think we can unpack that a bit later, but yeah, bless you.
Yeah. Okay, so here is the second part of that conversation. Stand by.
So I want my money back so I can personally pay the municipality myself. And I want my money back immediately.
I will do that. Yes, sir.
Okay. And watch, please, in the next 5 minutes, what's the social media hype I'm going to make now? And I'm going to name and shame you personally. If you don't even know who the director of your company is, I don't believe it.
We apologize for this inconvenience again.
Okay. It doesn't help to apologize when my kids haven't got electricity at home. Right?
That's very unfortunate for you, sir.
Oh, that's very unfortunate. So what would you like to do? Would you like to go home and your kids without electricity? Right?
No, sir.
Yeah. So go and fix it and fix it now.
I will fix it for you, sir.
Yeah, and fix it now. Not tomorrow, now. Okay, and you get hold of the municipality to put all my lights back on again. Now. All right.
All right.
Hey? Oh, it's a bloody disaster. Really. Hey? Take people's money over a month ago and you don't pay it over to the people. You are a disgrace. Really. You are a disgrace. Right?
Yeah, I understand your frustration and I really apologize for this.
Now, what is an apology going to do? Right? And who's going to pay for the reconnection fee? Please tell me that. Who's going to be paying for the reconnection fee and the notice of cancellation? Who's going to pay for it?
There we go. So that's the second part. We can see he's just starting to lose it. Quick comment, Cheryl, before we pass it around the room.
I forgot to add that this was past 8 in the evening that he phoned. And there was, I mean, who do you get hold of at that time at the municipality? So again, I mentioned earlier how the personal attack in this specific call, where he, for some reason, this poor man who is obviously very upset and very frustrated, decided that he was going to take out all of his anger on this young girl sitting. He's in Johannesburg, she's here in Cape Town. Part of this 16-minute interaction. At one point, he said to her, "I'm going to get on a plane now, and I'm going to you up." It's kind of crazy to think that somebody would go to that extent to utter words like that. And it actually makes me think of, like a road rage incident where there's like this tiny little thing that happens and Mr. gets out of his car, opens the boot of his car trunk for people who are not from here, and takes out a baseball bat and, clobbers somebody over the head over, like something small. But that is the lived experiences of our guys on a daily basis. In my experience, though, this one was really one of the most extreme ones, but there's elements of this that happens on an ongoing basis daily that our guys have to endure and absorb, and that has to go and sit somewhere and cause all kinds of other problems and issues if we think of the number of incidents like this that they have to go through on a daily basis.
Well, Cheryl, I'm glad you did a survey with your own staff, and I think really it's something we should promote in our industry. Is let's create that awareness that management is listening and understanding and trying to understand and trying to then, as Rudy put it so correctly, we need to go back to the actual customers, the buyers of our BPO services, and have their endorsement and support for the processes, methods, and or the training. Shane, do you want to add anything quickly before I play the last horrific piece?
No, thanks. What I'd like to add afterwards.
Okay, and anything from you, Rudy? Are you ready for the...
Just very quickly, I think any reasonable customer would understand that that advisor, the third party, although that is the only point of contact they have to their provider, there are limitations to what that person can and can't do. Cheryl, I didn't know it was 8 o'clock at night. So it's a very different answer that you're going to get versus 10 o'clock in the morning, right? So I think there's a lot to unpack after this.
Okay, so the last piece, and then we will start throwing it open. And I see there are a few hands up. I'll come to you guys shortly. Part 3.
I apologize again. I will escalate.
Yeah, don't give me don't tell me listen to me. I'm asking you a question. Who's going to waste me my money that I've got to now pay for a cancellation fee and I've got to pay for a reconnection fee for 5 houses? Who's going to pay for that? Asking question, your question.
Will
Right?
reverse, like you said, so you said that you want your money back.
I'm asking you.
Money back.
I'm asking you. Listen to me now, okay? Listen to me carefully. I'm asking you, who's going to pay me back my money?
It's the municipality, sir.
I pay the municipality or pay you? Right?
You pay the municipality, sir.
Oh, I pay municipality. Right? Don't okay? I paid your company. Alright, you didn't pay the money over to the municipality. Alright? And I've got a bill that I haven't bloody paid. And my credit record gets into an issue. Right? Don't keep.
I understand, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna kill the call now here. It's too upsetting. Wow. Okay, Cheryl, just a quick wrap up on that, and I think also just talk through how you handled it with your agent after that particular event.
Okay, I saw a question about why wasn't it escalated to a supervisor? It was escalated to a supervisor. She took on a lot more than what I would have wanted her to. In that specific client environment, we actually have told our team that they are empowered to not have to deal with that type of profanity. Mumi says she's a special girl, so I think she really tried to get him to a point where she didn't have to escalate and try and sort it out herself. She's one of our senior agents. But with that particular type of personality, I think it's just a bridge too far. What we did do afterwards is my client's attorney actually sent that customer a letter stating harassment, and it was more just to make sure that he understands that is not how you operate. And then also the defamatory statements about my client themselves, because they did what they needed to do in that part of the transaction with the municipality. I sent her for a spa treat because I was like, my goodness, this is insane. And then she also did have a debrief with the psychologist, which she said she didn't need it, but I felt like it was needed. So what we learned as an organization, this was a few years ago, is that it is important to make sure that our people understand that they are empowered. But there's also limitations that we have in terms of, to Rudy's point earlier, in terms of where our clients, what the limitations of our clients are. So there's a bit of a friction between the business and what the business itself sees as, I'm trying to be very politically correct with how I say this, people. There's friction between how we personally feel that what the limit is, and versus what our clients' expectations of us are. So that's constantly something that we're trying to balance. There's calls that I've listened to where I'm completely against what my client says in terms of how we dealt with a specific call. We've got, for instance, let me just use an example. On one of our projects, there's a team of design consultants that will go out to homes and they will give the clients quotes in terms of their flooring and some other renovations on premises. This is a US client. They give us slots, booking slots for these guys to go and visit the home. It's between 9 and 12 or 12 and 3 or 3 and 6, whatever the slot is. We don't have a specific time. I cannot tell you how much frustration this causes for the customer who wants to know that Piet Pompies is going to be there at 13 minutes past 10 exactly. And we can't give that information. And my team it's impossible for them to give that information. But there's just a complete and utter, the customer does not want to understand that. So I've listened to calls where the AHT is like yay long, where it could have been like, they'll come between 9 and 12. No, I need to know what time between 9 and 12. I can't tell you because, I don't have access to that. It's like this, I don't know if it is because of this whole customer is always right culture that we sort of make people think that they think that they can, say and treat and do whatever because they are the customer. Yeah. They've got the buying power. And there was something that I saw that the guest has also joined. Somebody shared after my LinkedIn post the effect of accents on the receiver's ear. Mm-hmm. The receiver hears an accent that they are not comfortable with. It immediately also puts you on the back foot and creates an environment that is now, if you're not going to tell me the right thing and you're not telling me the right thing in that accent, then we're going to have a problem. Mm. So I think that there's a couple of nuances that we're dealing with. And I honestly don't know what is the answer apart from what we teach in our soft skills is to not take things personally.
Well, let's pass that around because I think you've raised some very, very good points there. Shane, you mentioned earlier that you've heard much worse calls than that in your role as COO in the space. Just give us your perspectives on what you've heard now, and then also your own anecdotal inputs would be very valuable.
So I think, most of us in the contact center space have heard things that you can't even make up. I think we've all been exposed to some interesting behavior by clients, but I always say that it's always rooted in absolute desperation. When a client reaches that level, obviously you've got the outliners, which you cannot calm down no matter what you do. There's going to be people who are just raging and there's nothing you can do about that. But I think for the most part, if you've got well-trained agents, and we'll speak about the training, I'm sure just now, I think you can de-escalate to a very high degree. A lot of this, where it doesn't become worse and worse and worse over time. And that part of that, to Cheryl's point, is not just de-escalating the situation from the get-go, which some people are very talented at, but it's also just stopping further escalation from building and building and building. And I think that's a training matter that could have a lot more focus, and businesses in general should be focusing more, which I'll speak to a little bit later as well if I get given an opportunity. Yeah. On complaints, just in general of what that means for your business. I think it's actually the biggest lens to process failure that you can possibly have. And I think it's something that needs attention. But in terms of the agent, I think we can equip them a lot better to deal with these sort of situations. And that's an ongoing training issue, not something that's done once off in induction and part of their 2 weeks training before they go on board. I think it's something that needs to be reiterated and developed over time and constantly trained on. Happy to go into discussions about that if anybody's interested.
I think let's flag that and come back to that particular point. Rudy, I think when we started out, you raised such an important point, is we're restrained by the directives from the client side, the misunderstandings from the client side, the inability to empower agents, even with the best training in the world, to do what we may use our experience as the best practice on it. So your comments on that would be very, very valuable, because I think we're looking for solutions here.
Correct.
and nothing and opinions, and also from the floor, if anybody else. And we've got some really great inputs. Thanks, guys, for coming in on the chat line as well. And we'll circulate the chats as well, because I think there's some really significant contributions there. Rudy, over to you.
So I think we can all agree, Rod, that in our business, and you said our customers have the buying power. So they employ us, they contract with us to deliver a certain service. Whatever that looks like in our operational space, very often they are very far removed from that. You are lucky if a customer is actively involved in your operation. But that doesn't often happen. So we've got to deliver on a certain set of metrics, and that's how we get paid. So I want to, and Shane and I just want to say to everyone, Shane and I have not shared notes, but I feel that we are probably going to say a lot of the same things here. We can all agree that what we heard, and we hear this constantly when we do call listening, agent abuse, and we all have a zero tolerance approach. Absolutely agree. That should not happen. Cheryl, what we heard in that call shouldn't happen, and we should disconnect. So we have our standard disconnect processes. Our customer gives us the red line to go, yes, we can disconnect or escalate, and so forth. If the zero tolerance on the floor is the only strategy that we have, I think we're in trouble. The gap that I see on an operational floor is what happens before we need to invoke that zero tolerance policy, process, script, etc. Now, again, and it's by design, our industry, we spend a lot of investment on system, process, product information, possibly 2 or 3 days induction, possibly, if we're lucky, 2 or 3 days cultural immersion training, and off you go. You're in Grad Bay and off you go. And what sits as a direct cost in our world is that continuous upskilling. And the gap I see is in resilience training. Now, resilience training for me does not mean we get to endure more or we tolerate more abuse. The resilience training, and, or for a lack of better word, de-escalation training, is what we need to invest in, and that's an ongoing investment. I can't offset that cost anywhere. It's not going to go to skills development. It is us baking ongoing training into our pricing model to ensure that we combat, empower, enable advisors to de-escalate. So the more we are able to de-escalate, I think from the 3 calls we listened to, an opportunity would have been in call 1 to de-escalate. Call 2, the wheels came off, and call 3, I think we all would have said, cut the call and send a letter. Perfectly right process to follow. But the resilience piece, I think, for our young people, appreciating our demographic, is not something that is readily available. So that becomes our responsibility as leaders, as BPO providers, to create that investment. And then, Cheryl, you, music to my ears, you said you also did a debrief with a psychologist. I think the well-being piece is so important for our young people to understand. I do not have to take that abuse. This is the customer that is upset with a process, not with me. So the empathy piece around, I understand what you're going through. This must be really frustrating for you. I don't think cuts it anymore. That approach just does not cut it. I think that escalates a process even further. So the techniques in what we need to, for me, I think that the opportunity is in resilience and de-escalation training.
Okay, so now we're coming to the part which is the solutions. Shane, I can see you chomping at the bit to There's something going. I can see it happening in your eyes. So
the
share
wheels
it,
are
share
turning.
it. Mm.
Flames coming out of the brain. Look, I mean, really, I think we are completely aligned. I think there's a lot of things that we need to sort of talk about in terms of what can be done. And I think, to your point, again, training is important and ongoing training is important, but it's also part of the importance is constant data evaluation. And why I say that is often, complaints are treated as a sideline, something in a business that is a tick box exercise for compliance purposes. If you want our complaints resolution procedure, go to our website, but it's not ingrained as a culture within an organization to say these, and really you also mentioned these are our escalation processes, and the agent should be trained on that to say at a certain point I can't help this client. And again, also if this is the responsibility of your client, so the source client, there should be a hot transfer right back to them. You can only manage what you can manage, and you can only, expecting an agent to diffuse or to resolve queries that they're not capable of resolving should be a pass back to clients if it's not contained within your own organization. So a couple of elements: training, the data on back to that, why it's important to constantly treat complaints as an integral informer of a company's health is so important, and that's just from top to bottom. It's not a side quest of an organization, it is the foundations, it's a gold mine and a lens as to what's going wrong in an organization. As I mentioned, you will have outlying complaints that are not the normal. You will have process failures that are potentially seasonal or caused by something outside of your control. But where there is consistency in client complaints, we should have data to substantiate the data that we are monitoring and actively researching, whether we feed that data back to our clients and give it as an added value service, or whether we use the data to enhance our own services. That data is important. But on that point, data shows you one lens. And Cheryl, you said something earlier, and that was that you spoke to your people on the floor. And I think this is what the data doesn't tell us. There's a story from the people. If you want to know what's going wrong, go to the ground. Go and speak to the people, because they've got insights that data might not show for months to come. So I think it's very important that we keep our ears on the floor and are listening to our agents to hear what's going on at ground level, because they've got the insights, they know what's going on, and then they can tell you what's continuously happening over and over again in terms of escalations and complaints. So those are just a few points of what I think we should be changing in our approaches. And then obviously my last point, which I'm going to trumpet the bit for, Rod, which you know me for, ops, right? If you really want to save your agents from abuse, is fix the problem. And that goes back to your data. So sometimes we can't fix the problem with the BPO providers. Some of us might be in charge of our own contact centers and within an organization where you can, where it's within your own wheelhouse to fix. But go to the root of the problem and find out what it is. What's causing all these complaints, especially where there's consistency. We need to figure out where the process is broken, whether it's broken in a different department, whether it's broken. And I mean, I can give you multiple examples of how this could surface. But fix the problem first and stop the complaints from coming through instead of treating it as a sideline event.
Okay. I'm going to do something a little bit out of the ordinary. I'm going to invite one of our participants, Tanya Phillips, just to pop in and give us a bit of a commentary on what you're seeing. Tanya, you should be live. Come aboard. Where are you?
I should be here, I hope.
There you are. There we are. Tanya, you've been listening to all of this, and your contribution will be extremely valuable. Just a few minutes, if you don't mind, but go for it.
Thanks. Nice to meet you. I'll see you again for the most part. But you know what I think? So I've always stood on the soapbox for years, and I think we forget to remind ourselves just how difficult it is to do the job we ask our people to do. So I think we've all, I started my career in this industry many, many years ago. And I remember the one thing was respecting that this is a profession, respecting that it takes a certain amount of real skills to face into a person like that who clearly had zero emotional control, zero ability to regulate his own emotions. And what we do is we have I always say, and Cheryl, I know you share my passion for this. This industry allows us to create opportunity for the youth in our country, young people who we take for we don't take for granted, but we do all the right things to set them up for success from a product, process, system point of view. But yes, they face into limitations and into real life examples. And I think we've got to go back and remind ourselves that when what we do is not just serve and not just fill a process, what we do is we are actually professionals at resolving issues, and the skills required for that is not to stand for abuse, but to have the ability to defuse. So I think it's our responsibility collectively as an industry to say, when we talk empathy, what does that look like? When we talk minimum requirements, skill sets, what does that look like? Challenge the processes around ourselves. It says, our 30, 60, 90 days, our work readiness programs are great, but they miss a whole bit that says these youngsters, let's call a spade a shovel. How many people ourselves on this call would listen to that? And our response is, what gives you the right? Maybe there are individuals that come from a household with violence or aggression, and the response that we're not equipped to deal with that on a call. Those are real human things we've got to face into, where we say, and that's why I love what you did, Cheryl. I think our job as leaders in this business is to say, one, when that happens and we are aware of it, how do we support our individuals? And more importantly, call people like that out on their behavior, because as a society, that is not acceptable. But when we look back at it, we say, you know what? Our team, our individuals, what I always say, our humans that sit on the phones every single day need to have the confidence and the pride to kind of say, I have a skill set you don't. I can sit here and use words and explain a process to you so that to a point where you can understand. And then I've done everything I can. And if you fail to give me the opportunity to fix this, me who's been trained, me who's access to log this for you, me who can do the best to escalate it for you, then I fall into, then obviously there's process that allows me to escalate. So I just think we've got to do so much more to invest in our people.
Tanya, thanks so much for your contribution on that. Really valued that. So,
anytime.
Great stuff. So there we go. Rudy, won't you comment on some of the inputs that Tanya's? Okay, Cheryl first. Okay, ladies first.
Quick. Thank you, sir. Such a gentleman. And I actually want to quote you, Rod, because I think that we are going to find that there's going to be an increase of what we are discussing today. Because one of the things that's happening, with the evolution of those two letters, AI, is that we are moving into an era where, like the low type of queries, the lower queries, are being handled by a bot. You call them the calls that we're going to end up with, high touch, high care type of calls. And those calls are the ones where the guy is sitting without electricity, where he definitely does not want to speak with a bot. He wants to deal with a human. So, and this AI course that I did quite recently, that was a theme that kept on coming through. In terms of what the impact is going to be on, to Tanya's point, the human sitting on the other side, who now all of a sudden there's not going to be a break in, like, here comes like just a balance query or something I can resolve easily. Every single call might end up being a disgruntled, upset, frustrated, angry client. Now you've got that scenario happening. And then we also know, the average age of the people here in our business is like 25. And especially considering that we just lost like an amazing football player to a mental illness, we know this thing is real, and that mental wellness is it has become has become as common as somebody having like high blood pressure or being diagnosed as type 2 diabetes. It's just another illness, right? So now you've got an influx of people who already have these problems that they're dealing with in terms of anxiety and mental wellness. Couple that with like tons of disgruntled clients. Our role, the only thing we can do is to support, build that resilience, make sure that they understand it's not personal. I think maybe what we are creating is, at the end of the day, people who do become more resilient and is able to, navigate life a bit better because they have had the opportunity to work in businesses where we are, listening, upskilling, providing the necessary tools and things. But this is a reality. It's like something that we have to take. Otherwise, you're just going to go through the cycle of having to retrain, and what are these people then? Or do they just become commodities? Like, you're no good anymore because you can't handle it. So go, here comes the next batch. That's
Yeah.
that if we're not careful, then we could end up in a scenario like that where we just have a burned out individuals who are not able to cope with the requirements that we are placing on them because of how tech is evolving and what their day-to-day life could potentially look like with
you've added a whole lot of dimension to this discussion, where I think quite rightly so, with the advent of the dreaded AI beast, we need to look at our agents no longer as, let's face it, the last 20 years have been the disposable assets, and now they are super agents. And they have to be properly trained, supported, and I think the key word, I haven't heard it mentioned in discussion so far, empowered. Agents empowered to make and take those decisions and to follow processes and to be coached into that. So Rudy, this is your area of expertise and experience. Why don't you just expand on that? Because then I'm going to bring in a couple of other people. I see Imran, my good friend Imran Kara, has got some contributions. Imran, I'll bring you in shortly, because I think with your background in the banking environment under strict governance and branding protocols, I think you've got some good suggestions. Rudy, over to you.
Thank you. So, Cheryl, definitely layers added to that. We need to acknowledge, I think all of us, that what we have done for the last 25 years in our industry, what we do really well, system, product, process, grad bay, onto an operational floor. We do that well. Tick, tick, tick. We have built an entire industry on that. Now, with our industry shifting, our old ways of working just isn't good enough. So it is not seeing that person as a commodity, but that super agent. And where does that sit? That sits in investment, in well-being, in assertiveness. So what we don't see a lot of, and we talk about, I spoke about resilience training and EQ, all of that, but assertiveness is something that is very rare for a lot of our people. We don't know what their background is. We don't know what their personal circumstances is, where there may not be an opportunity to be assertive. That's our responsibility, is to show what that looks like within our processes and within our KPIs. But it takes real investment, guys. It's no longer the 2 weeks training and off you go and deal with it on your own. There's a different layer of investment into that people space, and it is that well-being piece. And I'd add in resilience, assertiveness, EQ into that well-being space to have a well-rounded interaction person in our centers.
On the one hand, we talk about technology and the bots and the AI component being hindering our ability to engage effectively, in many cases, directly with the customers. But I'm going to bring in a good friend and colleague in some instances, Nosi Mbata, who has been working with speech analytics and using speech analytics to monitor and therefore in support and to a large extent allow a really effective coaching in the event of these type of abusive calls. Noti, are you there?
I'm
She
here.
is indeed. This is
Can you hear me?
Mbata. We can hear you indeed. Just your experience, if you go back to your particularly the time in your sales environment where you were monitoring calls from a sales point of view. Won't you comment on that? And just very briefly, how technologies like speech analytics are helping to protect agents, one, and how the insights from that are helping to guide training and support of agents. Very briefly, if you can, Lucy.
Hi, everyone. Great conversations and great input from everybody. I think from a sales environment is slightly different to a customer service environment. Customer service is where a client has phoned you and they require help from you, right? Sales environment is where you are phoning someone because you want to, make a sale, whatever. So those people can be very rude and they'll just cut the call. So the abuse there is they don't really spend time because the minute they hear that you are a salesperson and you're trying to sell them something, they'll go, F you, end the call. It's different than a customer that wants help from you. That person is going to remain on the line and the abuse is going to go on. And I recently had a client that was looking at the same issue that you guys are talking about. They had an issue of prank calls where somebody would just phone and do nonsense. But even with that, these clients would be very abusive towards agents. And then they wanted to just monitor how much of this is an issue. And that's where speech analytics can come into play. It equips a business to be able to measure, to identify, and just and know how many of those instances are happening. You can detect where there's an abusive language. So how you can do that is, sorry, I'm speaking on behalf of Colby, so I'm going to explain what Colby can do. You can then go in and say, I want to create a query where I can, where Colby can identify where there was profanity coming from the client. I don't know any profanity, so don't ask me to build those queries. Can ask agents to help me. Where there were insults towards agents and there were threats like, I will come there, I will sue you, you regret this, and stuff like that. And with that, you can then be able to identify how much of a problem do we actually have. So this client that I'm talking about, they had to allow agents to say a line that says, I cannot continue with this call because of your abusive language, or I cannot continue with this call because it seems like you've made a prank call. Now, that one line only, you can take that one line and create a query to identify in your entire call base for the day, for the week, for the month, or whatever it is, how many of these calls where call B has been able to identify this language or this statement being said. And I'm going to agree with Rudy. This topic is not something that a system can help you sort out because there's an emotional aspect that goes with it. So you're going to have to, coach the agent, make sure that, they are okay after that happens. And I said to the client, buy a whole of them ashwagandha, they should be okay. Bad joke. But there's an emotional, there's a human to human touch to assist the agents to improve. But as a business, it can help you highlight or understand how much of a big problem do we have. And if you have, let's say, 5% of your calls that are flagged, it means there's a really big issue. So if you know that we've got a problem, you can identify what trends, like what's causing all of this, what call drivers are giving us these abusive clients, what cues, and what processes do we need to change. So what speech analytics can do is it'll give you data, and that data you can be able to then take that data and look in your processes, look in your business, and say, what is it that is causing our clients to come in and abuse our agents? It can, although speech analytics cannot help the agent as such, but it can help the business not to have those repeat calling customers that are constantly abusing your agents.
Nosy, thanks so much for that contribution. That's words from our sponsors. So thanks so much for that. But
You're welcome.
I think you raised some very important points. There is technology to support and to help identify the root cause on that. So thank you, Nosy. And I'm going to pass it to Rudy. We're coming up for time, so I think let's start getting down to the point we've got. What are the solutions? Bullet points.
Investment. Use it. So I'll tell you who we partner with. We partner with a company called Soul Impact. They do on-site counseling, trauma counseling, debriefing. They do resilience training, assertiveness, and we've seen a real change there. We've seen a real impact, but that takes investment. That is something that we need to, as a leadership team and as part of our strategy, build in upfront. We're not going to get that in day to day. We are all too busy. Our advisors, call queues are busy, and we have to prioritize that. It can't be an afterthought.
Excellent. Shane, I can see you've also got some contributions because now you're sitting as a COO in a BPO. You've got clients on the one hand who are price and cost sensitive. On the other hand, as Rudy says, we need to make the investments in resourcing, training, and supporting our agents. How do you handle that in a commercial sense to make it viable all round for the business?
Well, I think you can't cut corners in some ways, Rod, and your staff are certainly the last that should be suffering when you've got commercial tightening. And I think that the trend is to do the opposite, is to squeeze it out of the staff and out of the investment in them, and that's just going to result in an end game that's not going to be good for anybody. So first of all, commercially, yes, when you squeeze, then you need to do what you need to do, but it shouldn't come from the wrong places. My first opinion. The second thing, to your point, is how do we do this properly? It starts with your recruitment. Luckily, I had a wonderful lady who taught me that. Recruitment is everything, profiling the person for the right job. Not everybody is built to handle customer services. Not everybody is built to handle complaints. It starts right there at the heart of it, making sure that you've got the right profile, and also shielding those people who are not built for it from those type of discussions as well, by creating layers within your organization for certain escalations. Couple of other points is just managing your data, becoming more optimizing everything that you can. Not everything costs money. Optimization is also a culture that you create when you're in a business. So just using what you can from your resources and optimizing everything that you can by creating the culture that nurses feedback and that honors it and that supports the staff, I think, is some of the takeouts for me.
Wonderful. Really good contributions. And back to you, Cheryl. So we're coming up to time. So let's look at solutions very briefly. And then I've got some suggestions to make just before we wrap up. But in the meantime, to everybody on the call, if you're enjoying this, if you're finding value in it, please use that little heart icon at the bottom in there and show some love for the panelists. There we go. We're seeing lots of hearts there. Cheryl, over to you. Yeah, there we go.
So everything that Rudy and Shane said now, and then I just want to lean in a bit harder on the culture side. So creating an environment where people actually want to be, so that when they are done with that call and they've got colleagues around them that they can, because I've seen that, where the guys, like, after a call, they go like, I can't believe this person. Like, creating a safe space, a psychologically safe space, where your team can just let off some steam and talk to their colleagues, talk to their leaders, and have a supportive environment where they know they're not alone. You know, that they're sharing like these type of experiences and how they've dealt with it before, and just have an environment where people talk and feel that, you know, somebody else understands what I'm going through. because it is, I mean, Tanya said it so beautifully. It is a hard job. Like I would not be able to do what my guys do day in and day out. I get it every now and then from a client, and then it's hard for me. But to get that constantly, you know, it takes a lot from them, and we need to make sure that we are refilling their cups when they are in our space, with it's an environment where they actually want to be and they are supported and feel supported.
Cheryl, and if I can just jump in, the culture piece is really important. And again, it starts with us when we are selling business. So we are in South Africa a cheaper destination. We are not cheap labor. And we shouldn't be tolerating any poor interactions. We have really highly skilled individuals, humans that have built our industry. So it's very clear when we're sitting around those boardroom tables selling a proposition for an offshore destination, that we appreciate we are a cheaper destination, but we're not cheap labor.
Mm-hmm.
Very good points. I mean, this discussion could go on all day. In fact, I'm going to suggest that we have a second follow-up session. Maybe I'd like to bring in one or more captive operators from banks or insurance companies, where there's a different protocol, there's different culture, there's different restraints and restrictions, which I think will add a spin on these discussions. Just out of interest, Shane and I are currently co-authoring a handbook on setting up, operating and managing world-class contact centers. Shane, I think we've got a whole chapter we need to do on this particular topic, and we'll get some inputs from our colleagues as well. Okay, quick one. We actually a little bit over time, so I'm going to go around the room. Rudy, wrap up.
I think, yeah, thank you firstly for the opportunity. Let's not forget, these are really important conversations. People are at the core of what we do. We serve our people. It's not the other way around. And if we remember that in every interaction in a boardroom, and it starts from leadership. So that culture, that approach, that value that we drive through our organization starts from leadership. That's
brilliant. And Shane, you last but not least, just your wrap up.
Yeah, no, thanks everybody for joining, and some amazing comments coming through in the comment section as well. I haven't had a chance to sort of address all of them or look through all of them, but some really great insights coming through. So thanks for the participation from everybody. It's been a pleasure being with you, Rudy, Cheryl, Rod, and I'd love to engage in a follow-up session. I think there's so much more to talk about around the topic. Obviously, from an operations point of view, I've got a plethora list of things that we could do to safeguard the agents. But this has been so constructive, and really enjoyed today's session.
Thank you all, and particularly to my three guests today for participating and for the contributions to these discussions. And to those who've been on the call as spectators and commenters, thank you very much for all those inputs. Extremely valuable. The recording will be available in a day or two's time, but I think I'm also going to take the comments and the content of this discussion, and let's produce a white paper that will certainly circulate, and I'll post it on LinkedIn and beyond. And let's keep this particular focus conversation going. Maybe look down, but drill down into the training, recruitment training, and empowering of agents, because this is a problem our industry is facing. But if we just look at the number of participants and registrations we've had, it's around the topic and the panel. So well done to everybody, and thank you so much. And follow this link, follow us on LinkedIn, and we'll certainly be picking up this discussion for a second round. Thank you once again. All have a wonderful day, and see you on the next webinar.
Thanks, Rod.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.